Hello and welcome back to Visiting Dugout, a Fans First Sports Network production. I'm Chrystal O'Keefe. Today I have Stacey on to talk about the Yankees. You probably follow Stacey. I have been for years now, it seems like. So, hello, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, of course. So, you are my resident Yankees expert this week. So, what is new in the Bronx?
Well, let's see. What is new? Well, Jazz Chisholm reached 30-30 against the Orioles on Friday night. So that was pretty cool. He's only the third Yankee to do it, which is crazy when you think about the history of the Yankees and who they've had on the team. And the last person to do it was Alfonso Soriano, who did it twice in 2002 and 2003. And the other one was Bobby Bonds. So that's a pretty cool, I guess, group or duo and now trio to join in that number. Because, when you think about 30-30, it's not that easy to do. So that's pretty cool, especially because he came over to the team last season and he really adapted well to being a Yankees. If you look at his season stats, it's a little up and down because of the injury, but if you look at the previous 162, he's really amazing. Like, he's taking to being a Yankee so well.
Yeah, it seemed like he almost came in a little cold, but has definitely stepped it up, and that's kind of what you expect when you see a Yankee player. You're supposed to think of Yankees players of like outworldly, godlike. At least that's always been my experience with it. So I'm happy that he has because he's such a likable player too, which really helps.
Yeah, he's fun to watch. I know that there are older Yankee fans or even some younger Yankee fans who act like older Yankee fans who don't like the showboating and everything, but I think him coming over, them getting rid of the beard policy has really like relaxed the guys a lot. And I like watching them do that. And I'm one of those older people. I'm 51. So I'm right in that wheelhouse of the people who were like, oh no, they should stay like this. And no, I'm not like that at all. I adapt to every change that they make. And I love it. I love the fun that he brings to the team.
It's nice. They're and I know a lot of people will say that the Yankees do just seem very rigid, and that policy, the beard policy, obviously very outdated, was felt rooted in racism too. Like, you've got to let players express themselves, and I have noticed they do really well. I mean, I still follow Carlos Rodón because, of course, I loved him, and watching what he does with like the Willow Foundation and seeing him express himself and have that incredible purple suit jacket on the red carpet for All-Star Weekend just made me so happy. Like, I love him, and people like Garrett Cole are hilarious. I don't think people understand how funny that man truly is. But just being able to watch players finally express themselves a little bit more this season has been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and you can see it in the Yankee social media as well because they will record the guys coming into the stadium in their outfits and people will rate their outfits. And you even see it when they travel. Like, they have to dress up a little bit on road trips, but not all the time. They dressed up like cowboys going out to Houston a couple weeks ago. And I know that in the 90s and 2000s, especially when the dynasty was happening and then the fallout from the dynasty was happening and they were still really rigid. I mean, they had to wear like ties and suits, and now they can kind of it's kind of funny because these guys are showing off their designer bags and they're showing off their bling and they're showing off their, custom sweatsuits and stuff, and you can tell that it's just so much more relaxed, and I really hope that ownership sees that and realizes that that's going to help get some free agents to come over because they're not going to think of the Yankees as these stiff business-like guys. They're going to think of them as having fun, finally.
Because you would see it so much, on the other New York team, where you see someone like Francisco Lindor, who is always so stylish and so expressive, and you see them having a blast, and then you pan over to the Yankees, and they were just like robots. No fun. What are we doing here? So yeah, it is refreshing, and that's a great point that it might finally bring some, because I think those outdated policies were a big reason why they weren't getting any flashy people over.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that Hal finally realized that in 2025. He's like, oh, I didn't realize this was an issue. I thought to myself, I said, David Price literally came out and said, I'm not going to New York unless they get rid of that beard policy. He's like, I'm not going there and shaving my face. And that was probably almost 10 years ago when he said that. So
I cried. And he says it was not because of the Yankees. He was going to do it ahead of time, but I cried when Andrew McCutchen cut his locks before going to New York. I sobbed.
yeah, yeah. There was someone else that the Yankees got that he had to cut his dreads off, and then he didn't even last with the Yankees. Who was it? I can't even remember.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So many
Yeah.
people have been with the Yankees in the last, if they did a sporkle of the last 10 years, that would be a lot of guys. But if they did a sporkle, I wouldn't be able to get all of them. There's no way.
Mm-mm. No. So going back just a little bit with trade deadline, it seemed like there was a lot of action that happened. How are you feeling about how the Yankees kind of addressed their needs, especially if they do want to compete in the postseason? Do you feel like they did enough?
I think they did. I think they did. I liked the Bednar move. I liked the Caballero move. That's paying off because he's just a menace on the bases, and they needed someone like that. And I think the fact that they were playing Caballero over Volpe kind of lit a fire under Volpe's butt because he was doing things that we've been wanting him to do all season, like being aggressive on the bases when he gets on the bases and stealing bases. And I think that trade actually helped probably more than any other trade that they had. I know the Jake Bird thing didn't really work out because he's still in the minors working through things. Camilo Doval has been up and down. Austin Slater just came back from his injury, and Ahmed Rosario, when he does hit, he hits, but he's one of those guys that he can't really start all the time. Like, you need him just against certain pitchers to hit a certain way. But I think they did a pretty good job. I was actually surprised by how many moves they made because the Yankees did make a lot of moves to fix holes that they had. So they addressed the bullpen. They addressed the spark off the bench with Caballero. I don't think they expected to have to play him or start him for a few games while Volpe was out. But again, I really think that was a big move because it kind of helped Volpe realize, you know what? They could probably get rid of me. So maybe I should do something about this and play the way they want me to. Because it felt like Volpe changed his game, if that makes sense. Because when he first came, my thought for him, because he was, he's not really a power hitter. He somehow hit 21 home runs in his rookie season, but he's not really a power hitter. I would prefer him to be one of those guys who gets on base, steals second, makes things happen. And he didn't really do that because he, like most baseball players, you get addicted to the power. So when you're hitting home runs, you want to keep hitting home runs. And he changed his game completely. So I just really hope that this move helps Volpe out because Volpe was great in the postseason in 2024. He was one of the only ones besides Stanton. And I'm kind of hoping that he has a repeat in the playoffs in 2025.
So what happened there? Because anytime I logged on like Blue Sky, all of my Yankees mutuals were like yelling about Volpe for the longest time.
Yeah.
So do you think it was just, kind of regression from this great season he has and he's just naturally regressing? Or do you think there was something else going on?
Well, they came out and said that he had an injury. He dove for a ball against Tampa way back on May 13th. And I remember this happening. It was his left shoulder. And he landed awkwardly on it. And you could hear him yell when he hit it, right? And I believe he stayed in the game. He stayed on the ground for a while, but he stayed in the game. And I think he may have missed one game. And then he went back in. And he was just like really bad from then on. And for some reason, I didn't remember that. So looking at his numbers from a certain point, I think it really started in June. His numbers were abysmal. And then it comes out, oh, well, he has a partial labrum tear. And it's like, oh, well, that could explain.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect his throwing arm because his throwing arm is his right arm, but everything else could be affected with the torn labrum. So I think it was that, but he's very up and down. And again, I think he needs to realize that he's not going to be Judge. He's not going to be Stanton. He's not going to be Ben Rice. He's not going to be Jazz Chisholm. He needs to be Anthony Volpe. He needs to just get on base, create havoc on the base paths, and not try to kill the ball. I mean, a home run every once in a while is fine, but I wouldn't mind Anthony Volpe being like a 15 to 20 home run guy with a 280 average, getting on base, and stealing bases. That would be ideal with all the other guys hitting home runs.
Yeah, for sure. He was really interesting to watch last year, and I tried to do it, and then yeah, it seems like he did get injured, and I was like, this poor kid was so hyped up. I felt like he was very hyped up last season, and to the point where I was like, well, I'm gonna watch it. I don't watch these games, so I'm gonna check this kid out, and I was so curious as to what went wrong and how. And I think about it, these younger guys can be so stubborn and
Yeah.
still play through injury because they're like, I'm 23 years old, I'm invincible, I'm gonna play through this injury, not realizing like that's gonna damage your whole career if you keep that up. You're gonna have a very shortened career, and that's gonna be disappointing because you have all of this potential. So
It's interesting, right? Because you have the guys who are getting paid millions of dollars who also insist on playing because they want to live up to their contract. And then you have the other end of the spectrum where you have these guys wanting to prove themselves because they're not making that money, but they want to make that money in the future. And they don't want to mess things up by going on the IL. And it's an interesting thing about baseball because you saw it with Anthony Rizzo.
yeah.
He was concussed.
Yeah.
And he was still playing. And that angers me so much because that ruined his career. And I don't understand how he thought it was okay to have double vision and be a little woozy. Like,
And he was older at that point.
yeah.
He was
Yeah.
well into, I mean, he had a World Series under his belt, and he
Yeah,
was,
like you know better at
Yeah.
that point to, like if your body's not feeling right, why would you even subject yourself to that? I find that interesting. And what you said about Volpe, they rushed him up too much or too soon. He had what, like 10 or 12 games in AAA before they called him up to compete with Oswald Peraza for the shortstop job in the beginning of 23. They also, they did a disservice to Oswald Peraza as well because they thrust this kid into the playoffs. And, some people are like, oh, we didn't hit in the playoffs. And I like to remind people, yet no one hit in the playoffs in 2022, like, especially when they got to Houston. It was like, hello, did you watch that series? They got swept. No one hit. It wasn't just him. And he made some spectacular plays on defense for a kid who didn't have experience in the majors, who was thrust into playing in the ALCS. I think Oswald Peraza did a great job. And I think the Yankees did a disservice to both of those players. Because in my mind, I thought that if they wanted to say goodbye to Gleyber Torres, because it looked like that even before the 2024 season, that the Yankees were kind of pushing him out, that they could have Volpe, who played mostly second, and Oswald Peraza mostly playing shortstop, play shortstop. You could have Oswaldo Cabrera at third. Like, that was my thought when all these kids were playing. And the Yankees completely screwed it up. They do the shortstop contest at spring training. Volpe wins. And Oswald Peraza didn't take it well, apparently, according to rumors. I won't say who said what, but he did not take it well. And the Yankees had that in the back of their mind, and I think that hurt him going forward. But I don't blame him for doing that because, again, Volpe literally was like 12 games in AAA, so it wasn't enough time for him. But then Volpe wins the Gold Glove, and he's, finishing in the top 5 or 3 of Rookie of the Year, and you're thinking, oh, okay, maybe the Yankees made the right choice. And then he regresses a bit, and then he regresses even more, and he's making more throwing errors and everything, and I just don't think it was fair to him that he didn't have enough development.
Yeah, no, that's totally valid. I see that constantly. I mean, I know the White Sox rushed a ton of people up in the most recent years because, the injury bug really got them. So they've rushed so many rookies up, and sometimes it works out great. Colson Montgomery, they had to fix him. Obviously, he went through some serious regression getting to the minors, and they fixed him. But then I see other players, and I'm like, you need to, especially pitching, and I was like, you still need to be down in the minors. I see Jonathan Cannon, when I see his name slated to start. I'm just like, no, you need to be in Charlotte still. You've got years that you need to work through your issues. You have no command. And it's frustrating because we didn't have any pitching. I mean, our veteran went down at the beginning of the year, and it was just a bunch of rookies. And half of those rookies had no business actually being up in the majors at that point. So it's always so annoying to watch these kids just get rushed through it.
Well, I have a question for you as a White Sox fan because I've ranted about this on my show. I think it's criminal that the White Sox don't spend money because Chicago's like the third biggest market in the country, and there's no excuse for Reinsdorf to not spend money. And I would be so frustrated. Like, I don't even understand the Pirates not spending money either. That drives me crazy as well. But Chicago, I can't even. What's it like being a fan of a team who should spend money and doesn't spend money?
I think it's more frustrating that the other Chicago team does spend money.
Mm-hmm.
Both owners suck. I mean, the Ricketts are horrible. Reinsdorf
Right.
is horrible. Chicago sports in general have the worst ownership. It doesn't help that Jerry also owns the Bulls, so like I can't even enjoy basketball because they don't spend there. But yeah, it's frustrating because you're constantly the little brother team. So they have to like live in this Cubs shadow because the Cubs are spending. But then you offer someone like Andrew Benintendi, he's the highest contract they've given out.
But that's
And
insane to me.
he has a noodle arm that he can't throw. He cannot throw from right field to save his life. And it's incredibly irritating. It's incredibly frustrating. And I keep telling myself now that the Ishbas have this part ownership, but that doesn't even really go into effect until 2029. 2029 is the earliest Justin can kind of take over. Even if Jerry can croak tomorrow, it's still 2029 because the Reinsdorfs still have this, like his kids at this point would take over. And I'm just like, is he gonna spend money? Do I still have to wait 4 more years for them to do anything? And now I'm seeing it with this rookie talent. I'm just like, are they gonna offer extensions? Are they gonna give them big paydays? Are they gonna bring in good players to help mold? I mean, like, I'm not saying we need to bring in like someone that should be retiring, but like 28, 29-year-old player that has this service time. He's proven himself. We know that he's good. He could be there to help the Colson Montgomerys and the Kyle Teals and the Edgar Guerreros. Like, but instead they're like, no, let's just bring Corey Lee back up from the minors and have 3 catchers. Let's not bring in any decent pitching. Let's just let all of these rookies pitch all season. And I know that there was no competition this year. Like I knew after watching the last few seasons, there was no chance of making any kind of postseason. But now that they're kind of riding the ship with these young guys, they're looking more promising next year. You know, maybe we're not going to lose 100 games next year. But as I'm watching this happen and like a chance to be competitive next year, be competitive in 2027, I'm just like, but will we? Because is anybody going to want to come in and even play for this team? They know the ownership sucks. They know they're not going to get paid. They're just taking advantage of rookies right now. So it's incredibly frustrating to see it happen, to see your team just not care and to not pay and to never have like that big superstar on your team anymore. Like our superstar is Luis Robert Jr. Like that's it. That's our biggest name right now. So yeah, it's awful. It sucks. It's not fun.
I'm so sorry. There's some sort of machinery happening
Oh,
outside my door. I don't know what's going on, so that's why I muted myself while you were speaking.
fine.
I'm
You're
so
good.
sorry.
Okay, people are used to my dog constantly barking, so it's okay.
It's like it's Saturday. What are you guys doing?
Who knows? So playoffs are coming up, obviously. As we're recording, the magic number for the Yankees is 6. So with that said, how are you feeling about postseason chances and what the Yankees could do come October?
Oh, Well, here's the thing. I've been watching the Yankees regularly for 45 years now, and I know patterns. I just know how they're going to do usually. I don't see this team going deep into the playoffs. They're making the playoffs. I just don't see them going deep. They could squeak out a wild card win, but I don't think they're going past the division series with the way this team is so up and down, with the way the pitching is up and down. I'm not worried about the starters. I'm more worried about the bullpen because the bullpen's been exploding lately. And, the offense has a tendency to either score 20 runs a game or get shut out by a middling pitcher with a 5 ERA. So I don't see them lasting long. And, so I'm not planning on, we do shows 5 days a week. And my co-host and I were talking about, okay, what's our plan for the postseason? And I'm just like, well, it's not going to be long. I don't see us lasting till the end of October, but, I guess we should do live shows after games. Why not? That'll be fun. We did that after the World Series, and my God, the live shows after Game 1 and Game 5 were just, woo, especially Game 1. Oh, that was, I try to make myself level-headed on my show because I don't want to be one of those Yankee podcasters who's yelling all the time. I've been doing my show for 7 years. I like that I have the reputation of being a level-headed Yankee podcaster. But Game 1 of the World Series broke me. And some of my longtime listeners and viewers were like, no, we like when you lose it, because I lose it every once in a while. But they're like, no, we like when you rant. You should just... I said, well, if the Yankees keep Aaron Boone, then you'll be seeing me ranting for years to come.
Do you think maybe after this season he's going to be gone? No?
No. I say this, I joke about this all the time on my show. Anything short of murder, meaning him murdering someone, he's not leaving the show. The team. They're not firing him because he's a company man. He does what the front office tells him to do. He does what the stats department tells him to do. The players love him because he coddles them. And no, he's not going anywhere. Because if he didn't go anywhere after 2022, when they got swept by the Astros, if he wasn't fired after Game 1 of the World Series and bringing Nestor Cortez in, who hadn't pitched in a month over Tim Hill, he wasn't going to get fired. Yeah.
No. Do you think Aaron Judge does end up with MVP this season?
I think so. I think Raleigh is leading in home runs and RBI, but Judge is leading in everything else. I think maybe voter fatigue would help Raleigh win. But if you look at all of Judge's other numbers, he's been incredible. And he's been injured for the past, almost 2 months now with that elbow. And he's still every once in a while hitting home runs. And he could finish with 50 if he goes on a bit of a roll in these last few games. So I think it's his to lose, which I know sounds so obnoxious of me, but he's one of the best players that Major League Baseball has had in a while. And he's hitting for average. I know he was up around 400 and 380 for a really long time. And he's still above 300, which in the world of good hitters hitting 250 these days is pretty amazing.
I am admittedly waiting, like you said, that voter fatigue. I am waiting for it to happen with him and with Shohei.
Mm-hmm.
It gets to that point when it's the same two people every single year. I'm just like, this is why the sport doesn't grow.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly why. And I can't say anything bad about either one of those two. They're both incredible in their own right. They are both generational talent that will, go down in baseball history books for millions of years. But oh my God, if you want to grow the game, you've got to give it to somebody else. Like, let Cal do it. Like, he's so much fun too. But yeah, I am waiting for that voter fatigue, and I'm waiting for, honestly, a Dodgers downfall. Like, this is just one of those things. I was like, please, just let it die. Let the Dodgers die.
Yeah, I don't think they're as strong as last year, even though their pitching looks better. Because last year I can't believe the Yankees didn't take advantage of the fact that the Dodgers had basically a patchwork starting rotation going into the World Series. And I really think if the Yankees won game one, it would have changed the series entirely. But the way they lost game one also changed the series entirely. I mean, that is just such a letdown to lose in that way. And again, to bring someone in who hadn't pitched in a month, who doesn't usually come out of the bullpen. He used to, but then they turned him into a starter before he even got to the Yankees. I sit here we're recording this on September 20th. I sit here thinking about that night all the time, and I just can't believe it happened.
Yeah.
Like I sit here thinking, did that really happen? I don't think that really happened. I think we're living in a simulation and it was something fake that happened. There's no way.
It's like that theory that we all died in 2020. Yeah. I get it. Yeah, I can't believe it happened. And then we're 3 years removed, we're so many years removed from these events. But yeah, like I'm still stunned that happened. Now that you like have brought it back into my ether, it's like,
if I live to be 95, I will randomly say something about it, and the people taking care of me in the nursing home will be like, what's this crazy woman saying? Because I don't have kids, so I'm not going to have kids visiting me. So I'll be by myself in the nursing home. And, the people taking care of me will be like, oh, here she goes ranting about the Yankees from 40 years ago again.
That's what I do still to this day about last season, because I was the lucky one that covered loss number 121. And that recap was me starting off trying to be so professional, because I was like, I am a professional. This is, this was my 4th season covering this team at that length. I was like, I'm going to try so hard to like be professional. And I was like, no, fuck this. This team is so bad. I hate these people. What are we doing? This is worthless. Why do I care about baseball? Is my least favorite thing in the world right now. And I was just so annoyed, but it was very cathartic to get that out. I was like, I needed that release, because it had been building up, and I'm getting to this, and like I wrote something even like on the eve of 121 losses, like what does this do? Like, what does this change? How do we go about rooting for this team? What needs to be done? And I finally get there, and I was like, I don't care. I hate everything. This is stupid. And like, I'm going to be on my deathbed talking about recapping that game and how angry I was, and how angry I still am to this day about it.
Isn't it amazing how baseball makes you feel the best emotions and the worst?
Yeah. Like, my happy place is at a baseball field.
Mm-hmm.
That is the place I spent my wedding night at a baseball game. That is how I feel about baseball. And then there are days where I'm like, you know what? This is my least favorite sport. I'm actually going to quit. I don't want to write. I hate everything.
Yeah. When I was younger and I thought I was going to get married and have kids and all that stuff, and it was when the Yankees were winning, I was in my 20s. And I always told my friends, I'm never scheduling a wedding for October. I can't possibly miss a Yankees playoff game, especially back then, because they kept winning World Series. Yeah. I just kept thinking, all right, they're just going to keep playing deep into October for the rest of my life. It's going to be great.
Yeah. We it was a crosstown classic, so a Cubs Sox at Sox Park, and the Cubs won, and we were walking down to everyone at Sox Park screaming, "Go Cubs, go!" And I was like, this was a choice for us to do. All right, we're going to take a quick little break, and then we'll come back and talk about what the series might look like. So, Okay, welcome back. So, because 1, it's the end of the season, and 2, it's a Saturday, so we're a couple days early. We don't quite have pitching matchups, and neither one of us need to go and do that math. So, what can we expect from the starters for the Yankees? What are we going to potentially see this series from the Yankees?
Well, let's see. I'm trying to remember who's pitching, like who would be lined up, because there are 3 guys potentially competing for the 3rd slot in the rotation for the playoffs, because Fried and Rodón obviously have their spots locked up. You have Luis Gil, who's the front runner because he has the experience and he's pitched in the playoffs, and he pitched in the playoffs last season. He did very well. You also have Cam Schlittler, who came up and has been doing pretty well. And then you have poor Will Warren, who's been around the whole season. You know, he's made more than 30 starts this season. And Will Warren, who probably should have still been in AAA, making 30 starts for the Yankees because of Garrett Cole's injury, Marcus Stroman's injury, Luis Gil's injury at the beginning of the season. I think out of those three, it's between Gil and Schlittler. They're going to be competing for that last spot. But again, I think Gil is the one who edges out Schlittler just because of the experience. But I think Schlittler has a role on the team in the playoffs because he throws hard and he has some movement on his pitches. And I think he could be one of those guys who could surprise people by coming out of the bullpen at some point, possibly. So we'll see. I think that's what this is going to be about, like seeing those guys figure out, or the team figure out which of those guys is going to be the third starter.
And also hate to see Rodón in this series, by the way. My life, Carlos Rodón.
He's inching ever so closely to 200 strikeouts. He's almost there.
I know. I like to do little peek-ins of some of my favorite players, and he's always been one of them. And I'll just pop in every once in a while, like, oh, he had a good game.
And I'd like to say that at the beginning of last season, I made a bold prediction that he was going to win 17 games, and he just missed it. He got 16.
Got to cover his no-hitter when he was on the White Sox. I was on recap duty that night, and I'm sitting here, and I had an inhaler at the time, and I'm like sitting here, like my computer's propped up on my desk, and I'm like trying to still do it, but like as a fan, I'm losing my mind. And I'm sitting here like pacing around the room, like puffing my inhaler as he gets closer to it. And it was almost a perfect game too.
Right.
But that damn hit by pitch. And I'm just like pacing, and I was like, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? What are we doing? Oh my God, I can't calm down. Take another puff of the inhaler. And I don't know how I made it through that game. I don't know how I made it through that recap. I was just through the moon for him because he's just such a good person.
Have you seen a no-hitter in person?
No, I've not.
I was at Dwight Gooden's no-hitter in 96.
I had some friends, actually one of my best friends, Janice, she was there during the COVID season when they were only letting press in. She got to watch the Lucas Giolito no.
I love Lucas Giolito. He was on the All-Star like broadcast was it during the home run derby? It was at some point, and I can't remember which one it was. It was a few years ago. And I could listen to that guy talk about pitching for hours. I was just like, they need to keep him on. I really like him a lot.
Yeah.
And he seems like a good dude, too.
He is. He's so smart. And his family's cool because his mom's an artist. She's very talented, but she's also the sister of Mark Frost, who co-created probably my favorite TV series of all time, Twin Peaks.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, like, that's his uncle. So his family is super cool all around. I just love him. And he's so smart. I could listen to him talk about pitching and anything, really, for hours on end. He's just brilliant.
I could actually listen to anyone talk about pitching. I had David Cohn on my show 4 years ago. And it was before YouTube, when we were still audio only. And he was just so willing to talk about everything. It was great. And he even said to me, I'll come on once a month if you want me to. And I was like, okay, he's just being nice, but thank you for that. I appreciate that. But yeah, I love listening to anyone talk about pitching because that was my favorite thing to write about when I was still writing about baseball. I loved breaking down pitching performances. I really did.
I'm a big pitching girl, big pitching and catching. So, like, when people don't care as much about pitchers and catchers reporting to spring training, I was like, shut up, my show is on. This is all I want. I don't care about anybody else. I just want to watch pitchers and catchers every single day. And they're always my favorite.
I always get upset when people are like, oh, it's just spring training. Who cares? No, it means like everything's starting. Yeah. We're there. Like, I know games aren't being played, and I know they're just working out, and the position players aren't there yet, but I just love the video footage of the guys walking into Steinbrenner Field reporting for their physicals. I'm just like, it's here. We're finally here. It's like
this long, bleak, lonely winter is over. Like
Hmm.
cue the Beatles, Here Comes the Sun, and it's just people walking into spring training.
That's all I need to see to get happy.
Exactly.
Hmm.
It cures all the seasonal depression that you could
Yep.
think of. So the biggest threat, and I mean the Yankees have a lot of threats, but who is the biggest threat right now to the White Sox for this series?
Hmm. I would say I would probably say Judge. He's kind of waking up a bit. He looks more comfortable at the plate because he didn't look comfortable at the plate for a little bit. Like he'd, hit a home run, he'd be okay, and then he'd have a few games where he was down. But I think he's getting more into a rhythm when the umpires don't call low strikes on him and screw him like they did on Friday night in Baltimore a couple times. He's been in the league how many years and they still can't call strikes correctly on him. I don't know how he hasn't blown up at people, but he's a nice guy, so he's not going to. But it's got to be so frustrating to know that so many of your. Because someone had put up a stat that showed how many of his strikeouts happened because of calls that were out of the zone.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's cut down a lot on his strikeouts. That first season where he had the 52 home runs and he had over 200 strikeouts. And that was a big reason why he didn't beat Altuve in the MVP. But if you looked at all the secondary numbers, Judge beat him in a lot of different numbers that year, but they had to give it to Altuve.
Yeah.
And you saw a lot of those numbers get better as he's played. And again, the hitting has gotten better. I know his walks are up probably because they're intentionally walking him a lot of the time. But I think Judge is the biggest threat right now. And I'm a little worried about Stanton only because when he went on that tear, he's played like half the season, not even half the season, and he's already up to 20 home runs. He was hitting because he was playing the field. And now they have Judge playing the field again, and Stanton's DHing, and he has to go back to playing half a game, even when he said, yeah, I tend to hit better when I play the field. So
Yeah.
if you guys see Stanton as DH, you probably don't have to worry about him as much as seeing him in right field.
That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
That, the strikeout thing reminded me. I don't really use Twitter anymore, but this was when Carlos Rodón was still on the White Sox. I followed his wife Ashley on
Oh,
Twitter,
she's so funny. Yeah.
and she is very much like, I only come on every 5 days. I don't check Twitter otherwise, and it's just screenshots of her on like the MLB app.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a fucking strike. And she's just like going off
Yeah.
on these poor refs via Twitter about bad calls they make for him. She was a delight to follow.
I'm not even a wife and I do that. So,
Right? I do too. I do too. So these two questions kind of go hand in hand, oddly enough. And it's kind of what are the keys for the Yankees to win, but it also tends to fall in like what are your fears heading in, because they usually play off of each other. So keys for the Yankees to take this series and fears heading into it.
the key is to score enough runs where the bullpen can't blow the lead. And the fear is that they won't score enough runs and the bullpen will be fine. Because that always tends to happen too, where, the Yankees will be down 5-0, and then the guys that you're worried about from the bullpen will come in and they're so comfortable with a 5-0 deficit. They're like, oh, I don't have any pressure. Okay, I could pitch fine this time. So I think the key for the Yankees is to score early and often if they can, and make it so maybe they don't have to use the guys out of the bullpen who scare us all. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, there are some guys like Luke Weaver had a big blow up. Was that Monday against Minnesota? But they didn't get to Minnesota till 5 a.m. They played a Sunday night ESPN game. They had to play the next night while Boston had Thursday and Monday off. Don't get me started. And they did not look like themselves because the next night they came out and scored immediately. All the pitchers looked normal again. And I'm like, yeah, there's something to be said about a team playing like 15 games in a row and then having to fly into a new city 2 hours behind, or, an hour behind or whatever it is, and losing all that sleep, having to report to the ballpark. And then we gave them the excuse that on a Tuesday show, and people were so mad at us. But then when they came out Tuesday and looked normal again, I was like,
See what some sleep
I said
does.
they're human. I know they get paid millions of dollars, but if you're flying on a plane and getting like 4 hours of sleep,
Yeah.
you're not going to be fresh for a game. So I'm not as worried about Luke Weaver. I'm worried more about uh, Camilo Doval and Devin Williams. Devin Williams has been so up and down. He's been great his last, I think, 5 or 6 appearances, but he was like that during the regular season, and then he'll have another blow up. Because if that one pitch of his doesn't work, or if people aren't chasing it, it doesn't work for him. So I want this to be like 96 for me. There were a couple of guys in the Yankees bullpen that were horrible in the regular season, David Weathers being one of them. And then they flipped a switch in the playoffs and suddenly were unhittable. And you're like, where did this come from? So I'm kind of hoping that happens in the playoffs this year. We shall see.
Actually, just mentioned that Minnesota game last night. I was watching the opening remarks for the women in baseball conference that Saber is putting on, and she just wrote a book. And it was like, I can't remember the title, but it's basically like "Make Me the Commissioner. I Know How to Fix Baseball." I ordered the book because I want to read it now. But she was just talking about that because she was talking about how batting practice is all screwed up too now, where the opposing team goes last, and I don't know, she was talking about how to fix it, and she was talking about how the schedules can be so unfair these days, where teams are getting in, because it was leading to like the ghost runner and those rules about extra innings, and how, I mean, there were some boomer takes for sure. I was like, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, but okay, I see where you're coming from. But yeah, she was talking about how teams are coming in just so exhausted, and how the scheduling is just, it can be so unfair to these teams. And I do agree, like, you're not getting in until 5 a.m. and then you've got to go play a couple hours later. You're getting no sleep. You're playing 160 games a year. You barely have days off as is, and I think a lot of people need to be reminded that these players are, in fact, human. Like, this is kind of why I could go on a whole other hour-long tangent about, like, gambling and sports gambling, and especially baseball. Because people forget, hey, yeah, he's human. He's exhausted. He got off the plane at 5 a.m. and it was expected to be on the field at 3 p.m. There's no time to sleep. They've got to practice. Like, you've got to realize, hey, you know what? He might not hit very well tonight, or hey, he might not have his best start tonight because he's exhausted. So don't go yelling at him or his family on social media because he couldn't throw strikes all evening.
Yeah, because Boone made it a point on Thursday to say that we got in at 3:30 last night. I didn't make them get up. I let them sleep. Yeah. I didn't make practice mandatory. And they came out firing on all cylinders because they were able to get those extra hours of sleep.
Yeah, so your body needs it. Your body requires that sleep.
I mean, I know mine does, and I do nothing. So I can't even imagine what it's like being an athlete and not getting sleep.
Computer all day long, and I am still cranky and irritable, and my knees don't work when I go up the stairs anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't do anything of value with my life. So I talk about baseball. So moving away from our teams, it sounds like your team will do a lot better than mine, so we can get away from that. Just your thoughts in general on kind of what has happened, because now September is even almost over, so regular baseball is almost over. So just your thoughts on kind of how this season in general went down.
Well, I'm enjoying the fact that the wild card race, especially in the AL, is so, like, anything could happen. And, you know, the West could be either the Mariners or the Astros, or they could be the third wild card. It's amazing to me how this season is ending up. I think that I was kind of hoping that the Dodgers would fall off a little bit, just because I'm sick of them. I'm happy that the Astros have fallen off a little bit because I'm also sick of them. Someone had asked me on my show, who would you prefer to play in the wild card series, the Astros or the Red Sox? And I said, the Astros. And people think I'm insane. And I said, here's the reason. I said, they don't have Jordan. Jordan Alvarez is injured. He's out. He's going to be out. They're not as good as they were. The Yankees beat them, what was it, 2 out of 3 last time they played them. They looked a lot better against them. These aren't the Astros of 2017 to even 2022.
Yeah.
So I would like to get that monkey off our backs. We'll deal with the Red Sox at another time. I would like to deal with the Astros now. And after I explained that, some people, because I did a live show, and some people were like, oh yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense. But at first they were like, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? I said, no, I'm not. Because in '09, when the Yankees were matched up with the Angels in the ALCS, people just assumed, oh, they're going to lose. I said, it's a 7-game series this time. The last 2 times the Angels beat them, it was a 5-game series. And if you screw up in 1 game in a 5-game series, it changes the entire thing and you can't recover from it. And the Yankees won that series in 6. Because as I said, I've been watching baseball for 45 years. I've been watching the Yankees for 45 years. I've been watching these guys day in and day out for 7 seasons. I know their patterns. I know how they play. I can predict things because I just know what's going to happen just from knowing patterns. And like I said, I don't see them going that far. It'll be nice for them to be in the playoffs and everything, but I don't see them making a run like they made in 2024. And that's perfectly fine. It's fine. I would just like the Dodgers not to be the ones to win the World Series. I'd like someone else to win the World Series. That would be nice.
I liked your point about that they're not the 2017 Astros because it's funny because they are. If you look at the roster, they are very much the 2017 Astros, but they're old now.
Yeah.
They're not going to ever be what they were, and they don't bring in all this kind of fresh blood. They just stay on the whole, we're so good. Jose Altuve, who is really not great anymore. He's really fallen down the ladder.
Finally.
I'm so sick of that. I'm so sick of him. My son, I was actually just making fun of him for this yesterday because he is very much into like wanting to look cool and be stylish, whereas I'm just like, if it's not like a black shirt and jeans, I'm probably not going to wear it. He has their City Connect jersey, and it's an Altuve jersey, and I was like, we are, first and foremost, this is a household of White Sox fans. I know that you weren't alive in 2005, but we don't wear anything Astros. No. And this is the kid who, a couple years back, before like birthday parties were no longer cool, had a very big baseball themed birthday party. And I got the little Sunday helmets for every single team so that you could have your own, like create your own ice cream sundae bar. And for the Astros, no one was allowed to have that one. And I put it atop this little mini trash can and taped it to the trash can so that no one could even take it, because I was like, that's how deep our Astros hatred is in this house. So what the hell? You wanted to wear like an orange and blue, and you know, no offense, I know you're a Yankees fan. I was like, you could have picked the Mets if you wanted orange and blue.
Yeah.
I love the Mets. I don't hate the Mets. Astros, no. That's persona non grata in this house. What are you doing? I was making fun of him actually for it yesterday. He was like going through his closet and I was like, get rid of this shit. He was like, well, I didn't buy it. And I was like, yeah, but you let someone and you brought it into this house.
How dare you?
This is embarrassing. Yeah. I'm happy that they're finally on their downfall as they deserve.
That night when Evan Gaddis got drunk on Twitter and was telling everyone, oh yeah, we knew what pitches were coming. And some guy was like, so you knew what CC was throwing? He was like, yep, I knew exactly what CC was going to throw me. And I was like,
yeah. Yikes, man.
Unbelievable. Because 2017 for us was so unexpected, especially with the way the Cleveland series went. You know, after they lost game 2 the way they did, and I just thought, all right, well, at least they made the playoffs, you know, because they didn't make them last year. So cool. Okay, so this is like a first step. You make the division series, you know, you win the wild card game, you make it into the division series, and maybe next year you go a little further and a little further. And when they beat Cleveland, when Didi hit his first home run, my brother and I were watching the game together, and I looked at him because I get feelings. I
Yeah.
know when the Yankees are going to lose. I know when they're going to win. My heart usually starts racing. It didn't start racing, and I was like, "Oh my God, I think they're going to win this." And he hit the second home run. I said, "They're definitely winning this game. Oh my God, this is going to be so great." And then the Brett Gardner 12 pitch at bat happened, and I just thought, I can't believe they're winning this series. Like, oh my God, because after game 2, I had a bad feeling. Then game 3, Greg Bird hits the home run, and it's just like, oh. um, but 2017, they make it to the ALCS, and you're just like, oh, okay, cool. And then you're also thinking, Houston has home field advantage. It's easier for them. But then you saw how intimidated Houston was during those 3 games. And they even said, yeah, like, we don't really like playing here. It's really like loud and crazy. And before we found out about the trash cans, I said after the Yankees lost that series, if it were reversed and it were 4 games in New York, they would have won that series. Little did we know why that was the case. But yeah, 2017 was just, it was so magical. It was so depressing the way it ended. And then when we found out what happened, it was even worse, because that team was ragtag. I mean, you had like Matt Holliday was on that team, and Starlin Castro was still on that team. And it was just like,
That was like the only year I think I ever was just like, I'm gonna root for the Dodgers because I guess I like them more than this team.
ugh.
Again, that's kind of that White Sox hatred.
Oh yeah, I covered that really crazy one, that crazy game, the really high scoring one for Baseball Prospectus. It was my recap night. And I also covered the Dodgers Red Sox game that went 18 innings. That was
Yeah.
I had to cover that too. I didn't file my story until I think it was 6 a.m. New York time because that game went on for so long. Because I'll take notes, but I like to watch the game and then throw up my thoughts onto a piece of paper. And that's what I did. That's why I filed it so late. I don't know how I did it. I was completely delirious. I was like, when is this game going to end? I was so relieved when it finally did. But yeah, no, I did the Houston Astros back and forth game 2 game also in the 2017 World Series. And I was like, is this my destiny while I work for Baseball Prospectus? I'm going to get all the crazy games for the World Series.
Got for you. Like I mentioned, I'm sure people already follow you, but just in case, please let people know where they can find you.
You can find me, you can watch me 5 days a week if you'd like to on Locked On Yankees on YouTube. We're on every podcasting platform available. We are 70-ish subscribers away from 10,000, which is pretty exciting because I didn't think we'd ever get to that many subscribers. So if you want to follow me there, you can. I am on Blue Sky at, stayscottsbaseball.com, I believe is my username. And you can also follow me on Instagram at srgots.
It's a later problem for me. Well, thank you so much. Best of luck in this series. Best of luck with your postseason aspirations and 10K. So obviously go follow Locked On Yankees because that's exciting in itself. So yeah, thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.